Want more Gators Breakdown? Join Gators Breakdown Plus. Starting at $3 a month, get access to unique episodes, plus a blog, chat room, giveaways, shout-outs, and more. Gators Breakdown Plus is furthering the interaction with fans and listeners like you. Head to gatorsbreakdown.supportingcast.fm to join Gators Breakdown Plus today. Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. And hey, I was going to bring you an episode anyway, as we got to hear from some players this past weekend for the first time this spring, just like we got to hear from Billy Napier. So Austin Barber, Jason Marshall, you get to hear from those guys as they spoke to the media on Saturday to kick off spring practice, but also Gators making a coaching hire. We knew the openings that the Gators had coming into spring practice, tight end coach and wide receiver coach, and the Gators find their man. They're going to elevate Russ Callaway from the staff as now the tight end coach for the Gators. We'll get into his resume, what he brings to the table already on staff. Billy Napier brought him in last year on his first staff. So elevation, and look, it can make some sense when you go through the resume here and what he's done in his short, young coaching career. Kind of a theme going here with Billy Napier and these coaching hires, very young coaching hires. Is that going to pay off? A lot of experience in the SEC, a lot of, of course, two of the best coaching staffs, if not the two best coaching staffs in the country, reside in the SEC. And Billy Napier going to the youth route in some of these spots here. So we'll see. I like the hire of Russ Callaway. We'll get into it just a bit here. Offensive background, defensive background too, when you look at Callaway. But we'll get into his resume. And as I said, hear from Austin Barber, Jason Marshall, talk about, we'll discuss a little bit about the offensive line and the defensive backfield and all that good stuff right here on this episode of Gators Breakdown. Everybody hit that like button. Subscribe to Gators Breakdown if you haven't done so yet. You got us to 11,000 last week. Let's keep it rolling. And, of course, Gators Breakdown Plus. It was hopping today on that Discord server with all the coaching news coming out and maybe a little bit close to a wide receiver coach hire as well. That's been talked about on Gators Breakdown Plus Discord. We'll get into it right here on this episode of Gators Breakdown as well. All right, so let's get to it. Russ Callaway, hired as the tight end coach for the Gators at age 35, as I mentioned. Very, very young coach right here. And hey, look, in that time, a pretty extensive resume. Callaway joined the Gators last year, 2022, after spending the 2021 season with the New York Giants. So already there in the NFL as well as a young offensive assistant. And he was on the 2020 LSU team, that 2020 LSU team that came into the swamp, broke our hearts right there in the Fog Bowl as Florida suffers their second loss of 2020. It was the year after LSU had won the national championship, of course. A disappointing 2020, but ended up getting that win versus Florida. Callaway was on that LSU staff that came in here into the swamp and upset Florida. Callaway spent 5 seasons at Samford before that, where he served as the Bulldogs offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach from 2017 to 19, and the wide receivers coach from 2015 to 16. So tight end coach here, but an offensive coordinator at the FCS level, a quarterbacks coach at the FCS level, and a wide receivers coach at the FCS level, an offensive assistant going to the NFL and in the SEC at LSU. So a lot of experience here in his 35 years of age. And Callaway, at his time at Samford, mentored record-setting quarterback Delvin Hodges. In 2018, Hodges earned the Walter Payton Award for the top offensive player in all of FCS football. That's their Heisman Trophy. That season, Hodges set a school record for 4,283 yards for his career, the 3-time SoCon Offensive Player of the Year and All-American, passed for an FCS record 14,584 yards, breaking the old record set by one Steve McNair. So one of the most decorated players ever at the FCS level, Delvin Hodges, coached by Russ Callaway. As a unit in 2018, Samford's offense led the nation in passing yards per game with 392.7. That offense ranked fourth nationally in total offense at 515.9 yards per game, eighth in both red zone offense and in first downs. The team's 2017 offense led the SoCon and ranked fifth in the country in passing yards per game. And in 2016, Callaway's offense ranked third among all FCS schools in passing offense, averaging 349.4 yards passing per game. Offense also ranked sixth in the nation in red zone offense, 11th in team passing efficiency, 12th in scoring offense, and 14th in total offense. All that in 2017. Prior to Samford, Callaway spent 2 seasons at Murray State, where he worked with the wide receivers, while also serving as a recruiting coordinator. Callaway joined the Racers after winning back-to-back BCS national championships as a defensive analyst on Nick Saban's staff at Alabama. In his role at Alabama, Callaway assisted defensive coordinator Kirby Smart with the inside linebackers. Played collegiately at Valdosta State. There's that kind of connection there to Kirby. Just the Valdosta State, just in general. Two-time captain there at Valdosta State. So, as I mentioned on the last episode, kind of going through these coaching hires, or last week sometime, is this little coaching circle of Billy Napier, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, and here's another one. Callaway is really highly thought of for his offensive mind. Billy Napier brought him on staff, going to raise him up to the tight end coach here. A lot of offensive background, successful offensive background, albeit at the FCS level. We'll see if it can translate, see if it can help this offense. And now at the tight end role, has some work with wide receivers throughout his career, but also on the defensive side of the ball as well. So all around just coach, on both sides of the ball here is Callaway, on the offensive side and the defensive side, grabbing him from the NFL ranks as well before. That's where Billy Napier grabbed him from, was from the NFL ranks in the 2021 season with the New York Giants. So extensive young career here for Russ Callaway. I like it better than the Pigler hire, given his background here, a little bit of background and familiarity with Billy Napier, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart. Very successful in I said FCS level. We'll see how it translates, but very successful in calling plays and leading that offense for Samford for a few years. So a lot to like about this hire, more on the younger side. So we'll see where youth maybe helps him to help on the recruiting trail. I think it can help there. That's probably the biggest question for Russ Callaway, is what type of recruiter can he be here for Florida at the tight end position. Certainly Florida wasn't hot and heavy recruiting tight end. So the last couple of cycles brought in some numbers, not really high profile. I think eventually Florida was going to get there at recruiting the tight end position. So we'll see where Russ Callaway steps in and maybe can improve in that regard. But part of it was strategy the last couple of cycles as well, of not going too heavy after tight ends for the Gators. So what he brings to the table, I pretty much I think I like, given his background, I like it better than the Pigler hire here, and a bit of that coaching circle here with Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, and it's become a theme here for Billy Napier in hiring within that circle. So there you go. Tight end coach hire, Russ Callaway, announced today. Not officially, but it's going to happen right here. Age 35, tight end coach for the Gators. So, of course, one more opening is left. And I did tell you on the previous episode of Gators Breakdown about the wide receiver coach hire. I gave you the list of Joe Daly, Taylor Stubblefield, Tony Sorrentino, Joe Filani, Billy Gonzalez. I hear your Dallas Baker. Throw one more in the mix that kind of it pinged on my radar over the weekend, but my parents were in town, so spent some time with them on Saturday, but started hearing it hot and heavy more on Sunday, and that's wide receiver coach Phil McGagan. And we'll see where that one goes. His name, he was on campus this past weekend, has definitely interviewed for the job. We'll see where that one goes. Throw his name into that mix as well. Seems to be the trending name here on this late Monday, not late Monday evening, but early evening right here on this on this Monday. So we'll see where that one goes. A lot of experience there from him last year coaching at Colorado. Extensive NFL resume. We'll get into it if he's the hire there for Phil McGagan. A name to watch out for the wide receiver coaching hire. All right, here we go. Time to get into a little bit more of spring football. Of course, Gators on the field Saturday for the first time. We get to hear from a couple players for the first time. Austin Barber, Jason Marshall, two starters right here. Austin Barber going to fill in left tackle right here for the Gators, getting his first crack at being the known starter. But let's hear from him on that scenario of him. Where's he going to fit in? Left tackle, right tackle? That was a little bit of a question. Here's Barber addressing that.
I'm taking first team reps at left tackle right now, and I think that's where I might stay, but who knows what's going to happen. I mean, just right now, that's what I'm running at first practice, and I'm excited for it. I came in as a freshman as a left tackle, and I played both last year, so just to see me playing on the side I came in is pretty cool. But I can't decide if they're going to move me around or not, so I'm just going to let them decide.
You were in Freshman All-America honors, I think, in one publication, but I mean, obviously it was a surprise season for you. How do you build upon that, or what was kind of like the last few months like leading into it?
Just going back and watching every single game and every single clip of how I played and what I can fix day in and day out. There's a lot of stuff that I watched, even in season, that I was like, dang, I need to fix. And looking back after, giving myself some time and myself just time to reflect on the season, how it went great, but there's a lot of things I can fix in my game to where I want to be. At the end of the day, I'm trying to be one of the greats around here, and that I can't do that if I'm playing at the same level I did last year.
Is there some excitement or eagerness to be penciled in at left tackle, the spot you have played most of your life, I assume?
Oh yeah, it's awesome to know protecting the blind side. It's just, I feel like that's just the most the best position on offensive line, in my opinion. I don't touch the ball like the center, but I think I protect the quarterback a lot more, and it's an honor to be at a left tackle here at the University of Florida.
Does it make it a little bit easier than having to switch left and right in game like that, to be able to maybe solidify yourself at one spot?
I mean, I think it will, but I think the diversity of me playing both sides is just puts me in a better position for maybe the next level or whatever, and it shows I can play both sides, and but I'm happy to be solidified at one spot.
There we go, hearing from Austin Barber. And look, there was a little bit of question coming into spring practice. You heard us talk about it last week and throughout the last few weeks or months since the season ended of, where would he line up? Left tackle, right tackle, but, given his experience last year and really good experience coming in, we didn't know we were going to get that out of Austin Barber, but, playing both tackle spots last year just made more sense to take over at that quarterback's blind side on the left side here. So showed a lot of value, a lot of worth being able to play both sides of the tackle positions last year. I love the mindset of, not being happy and not settling for being successful last year. Go out there and get better. That's what Austin Barber wants to do. And look, there's now a lot more responsibility on his shoulders of being the guy in spring camp and fall camp. So, hopefully he does get to take a lot of those reps at left tackle so he can concentrate more on that role. And we see that jump that he's talking about himself making coming up. So took most of his reps on the right side last year. Of course, Michael Tarquin goes down versus Kentucky, and here comes Austin Barber. And it was a pleasant surprise there along that offensive line. Not really a drop off, or maybe even an upgrade in some ways. Michael Tarquin ends up transferring out. And then, of course, throughout the season, toward the end of the season, they're rotating with Richard Garage on the left side. And I think the staff knew, hey, look, this is our future left tackle. Let's go out there and get him some reps. There was really nothing wrong with Richard Garage at that time, but the season, toward the end of the season, kind of lost in some respects. Go out there and start building for the next season. So you start seeing Austin Barber rotating with Richard Garage a little bit on the left side. So certainly needed all those reps he got last year. After those surprising departures of Michael Tarquin, Ethan White. So, look, he's now one of the more kind of crazy after playing so much last year. He's one of the more experienced offensive linemen because Tarquin left, White left, and now it's just Barber and Iguacan. So that experience, hey, look, that'll go a long way in helping these incoming transfers get acquainted in this offense?
They all look good, they're trying to learn everything. They're new guys, just like how I was when I first got here with this staff. And, they're going through what I went through, and I feel like they're putting the work in every single day, even before spring ball. So, everyone looks great, and I'm excited for what's to come. Every single transfer we got in, from offense and defense, they've came in, and, I have great relationships with a bunch of these guys. And, it's just I think that they're trying to learn the ropes around here because they went from somewhere else, but I think they're fitting in just well, and they're learning it quick.
How much of a timing or rhythm element is there to the new faces on the offensive line? How does that get developed over time, you think?
I think it's just meetings and stuff like that. Since they got here, I've seen them every single day, and I feel like you just gotta have a conversation with them. You know what I mean? You can't just they're the new guys. You can't talk to them. I'm trying to bring them all in. Try to help them buy in because we need them. We lost a few guys, but we need them to step up and play with us for this next season.
Hey, look, this offensive line, it's segmented. The left certainly looks to be solidified already. From left tackle to center, you got Barber, Micah Mazuka, Kingsley Agwakin. And as a reminder for Mazuka, he's a new face on this, but 898 snaps throughout his career. Man, a starting role for 10 games as a third-year sophomore last year. Allowed just 1 sack, 14 quarterback pressures in that stretch. Had a run blocking grade of 76.9 out of 100. First teamer on Pro Football Focus. So look, you plug and play. So the left side's solidified. No matter if he's a transfer or not, you got your left tackle, you got your left guard, you got your center. As we discussed last week with Will and Nick right here, previewing spring football, transfers will be in the mix on the right side. And transfers, Damian George from Alabama, Keontae Goodwin from Kentucky come in. They're going to compete on that right side with Richard Leonard, Jalen Farmer, Jake Slaughter. And I bring him up. He might make a push at center. I don't think he'll surpass Kingsley, but there's a lot of talk behind the scenes of Jake Slaughter coming on. So, if he's going to push and maybe get on the field, maybe they're on the right side if it opens up that way this spring. We'll see how that goes. They may just want to stick him right there at center and see what he can do. But maybe somebody I know the staff is high on, if they're that high, maybe they try and get him some playing time on the right side as well. And, if he can't get in over Kingsley, get into that competition on the right side. But the biggest questions of, where will George line up? That's one of the biggest questions. Has he played both guard and tackle at Alabama? And also, at the same time, how fast can Goodwin get in shape and compete for the right tackle spot? He's going to be competing there this spring, but will he be in shape to make an impact, to go defend all the other suitors that are going to be competing with him at right tackle? We don't have those answers just yet. Probably will try and, glean a little bit more in these next couple of practice. Where's George lining up? That might give us a hint. But also just how fast Goodwin can get out there. But, of course, this group should be able to lean on Barber, Kingsley, Leonard, Farmer for how to approach fitting into this offense. And that having 2 offensive line coaches as well should pay dividends on figuring that right side out. There's plenty of guys who maybe didn't get a lot of playing time last year, but they went through the process. They went through spring practice. They went through fall camp. They know the expectations of this coaching staff. It's not like last year where everybody's new. Now these incoming transfers can lean on guys who got experience last year. Should help the transition go just a bit faster. And, of course, when you talk to an offensive lineman, of course, he's going to get asked about quarterbacks. Austin Barber was asked about quarterback Graham Mertz. He brings up Jack Miller on his own.
Graham Mertz puts a lot of work, and he's in this building every single, 24 hours. I never see him leave. When I leave, his car's still here. When I get here, his car's here. So it's just, I'm happy he's putting the work in. And, actually me and him have been hanging out on the outside some, just trying to get to know him. And he's a cool guy, great person, and I'm excited for him. And I'm excited for Jack Miller, too, You saw how he came in and played in the bowl game, just his first start, you know what I mean? But he looks good. He's been putting the work in just as much, and I'm excited for this competition between them two.
There you go, competition. You want this to be a competition in some ways. You want these guys to be able to push each other. May the best man win. And we'll see what a competition means for the winner. Is it just a battle of two mediocre quarterbacks, or is it a battle of whoever wins the job is going to go out there and play good for the Gators coming up this fall? We can think we had the answer to that. I certainly think I would, but you never know. You never know what can go out there and take place this fall. But Barber was strictly asked about Mertz fitting in, but he did make sure to throw in Jack Miller as well to kind of throw in this as a competition. And those statements about Mertz are nice to hear. But that should be expected for a quarterback coming in and being behind. As far as experience goes, Jack Miller in this offense last year, you would hope to hear Mertz is basically not wanting to leave the building. You keep hearing Mertz being really involved in the catching up process and getting to know his teammates. Hear really good returns on that. That's going to be step number one, right? We'll see what. Hopefully, everything on the field kind of follows that same path. But step one is, before you get out there in spring practice, get acclimated with your teammates, get acclimated with the playbook, and it looks like he's taking care of basically being in the facility all the time. If you take Austin Barber for his word right there. So good stuff there from Austin Barber, getting us insight on the offensive line and a little bit on the quarterback. I wonder what we get to hear from the quarterbacks. This week, of course, though, this is the only time we get to hear from assistant coaches. Billy Napier's protocol here. We get to hear from them during spring practice. We get to hear from players, spring practice and fall camp, but we don't get to hear from the assistant coaches when fall starts. So this is the only time we get to hear from them. This week, we get to hear from Jabbar Jalouk and Rob Sell, I believe. And then on Saturday, when Billy Napier speaks again, Austin Armstrong is supposed to be speaking to the media on Saturday. So we get to hear from assistant coaches for the only time in front of the media now coming up in the next few weeks. But Jabbar Jalouk, Rob Sell, and Austin Armstrong coming up. One more player we get to hear from before we call it an episode right here, Jason Marshall. Man, hard to believe he's in his third season. He goes in detail about the coaching change, the defensive coordinator change, and one Corey Raymond taking over the secondary.
I felt real comfortable, just being together with everybody, like you said, I've been here, this is my third year, so just bringing everybody along, really.
Has Coach Armstrong met with the defense as a unit yet? And if so, what kind of expectations has he set?
He came in, excited, and I'm ready to see what the defense does this year. And like I said, he came in really excited.
And Coach talks about you, taking on more of a leadership role. How important is that going to be, considering, some of the guys that were lost, like Ventrell and so forth, that for you to step in and do that kind of thing?
Being more vocal, like you said, I'm going to be one of the veteran guys, so just being more vocal to not only the young guys, but some of the other veteran guys, they may be in the wrong spot, got to get them right. So just learning the whole entire defense and be able to, execute at a high level.
What did you know about Coach Armstrong when Florida hired him?
Say it again?
What did you know about Coach Armstrong when you first heard that he was going to be the new DC?
Not much, really, not much.
Did you Google him, or what did you do to try and get a little insight?
When he first got here, that was the first time, that I met him or anything like that. And like I said, he's a guy that comes with high expectations and high energy. So
is it important that he's coming in here already knowing kind of the language you guys speak as opposed to a new DC and having to change it up again?
Yes, that's actually very important, and we don't have to, go through a whole nother DC of play calling. So everybody, still is very fluent, really.
How much is supposed to be? That's okay. How much do you talk about that familiarity? How much being in year two, that familiarity with everything going on, from how you practice and everything? How much does that really help you guys who've been around here from going into year two?
It helps a lot. You know everything that's going on.
Coach Armstrong's supposed to be a little bit more aggressive. Are you sensing that already? Has he conveyed that to you, that his intention to be a little more aggressive with the defense?
Yeah, and I like that. For him to be more aggressive.
He's a Southern guy too. Is there a little difference between him and PT in that regard?
Just his energy, and when he steps in, he high energy. So I feel like that pretty much separate him. But they're still somewhat similar.
When you say he's more aggressive in scheme, and did you even see that in the first practice, or what?
Aggressive in scheme, for sure. Aggressive in scheme, for sure.
I'm sorry, you mentioned the excitement a couple different times. What does that look like? Is he like yelling? Is he bouncing off the walls? What's he doing?
Yeah, bouncing off the walls. You can see him running from this sideline to the other sideline. He's just very hype, very hype.
How much can having Coach Raymond there, working with the entire secondary, how much do you think that can really help the entire defensive backfield?
Just his knowledge. He can spread his knowledge to everybody, not only myself, Devin, or in the cornerbacks room, but the safeties as well. And we all going to be on the field together. So why not have one coach to, put in the knowledge, and we all learn from him.
There we go. Hearing from Jason Marshall, as I said, man, it's hard to believe he's been around 3 years. So had a hard time adjusting last season, especially with a lot of the zone coverage schemes Patrick Toney was throwing out there. And look, had just over 3 targets per game against him. However, those opportunities made opposing passers a little more hesitant to look his ways. He accounted for 8 pass breakups, 1 interception, no touchdowns allowed on 56.3% completion percentage on him. Last 5 games, played better, allowed 9 receptions on 20 targets, broke up 5 passes. But in his 3rd season, he had that high stature coming in. Time to step it up a bit. Time to step it up as a leader, you heard him say, and step it up as a player. He's going to be counted on to be that number 1 cornerback for Florida and a leader with 3 years under his belt. That's the way it should be. As many reps as he's taken, dating back to playing as a true freshman, it's time, for him to become a leader. And look, hopefully you heard him say it, all the aggressiveness going along with the new defensive coordinator change and going from Patrick Toney to Austin Armstrong, Corey Raymond taking over the secondary. Hopefully that has Jason Marshall taking that next step. A new look in the same defense with Austin Armstrong taking over. His aggressive style fits Jason Marshall's ability a bit better. Raymond gives that one voice to the entire secondary, and this aggressive style to me suits Corey Raymond a bit more as well. As far as a defensive coordinator and a secondary coach getting together and really communicating and really coming up with a game plan, I think it suits Corey Raymond just a bit better as well. So hopefully, those 2 avenues together, Armstrong and his aggressiveness and Corey Raymond taking over that secondary, hopefully leads to some improvement for Jason Marshall and of course the entire secondary. But Marshall going to be counted on big time to step up with his experience, his recruiting profile, time to live up to that, 5-star status there for Jason Marshall. And since we spoke about Corey Raymond, with all this change and all the spots back there on that defensive backfield, just one of the more intriguing storylines this spring for the Gators. I expect big-time battle. We talked about it last week. Devin Moore, Jaden Hill for that cornerback 2 spot. I mean, does Jalen Kimber or Jakeem Jackson as a true freshman this spring as an early enrollee? Do they push for more time? Where Florida, they have, with those 2, could probably get to a spot where they feel pretty good about rotating cornerbacks. We can we'll say likely here, right in Kamari Wilson, Miguel Mitchell at safety. While Jadarius Perkins may get that first crack at the nickel spot now, given his experience there. But looking at safety, looking at nickel, not a lot of depth. Does that open the door for another early enrollee like Sharif Denson? I mean, look, spring practice, this is the time for early enrollees, true freshmen, redshirt freshmen to make their mark. Guys who also are looking to break through, to break out. I mean, that's what spring is for a lot of the time. So we're going to hear a lot of young guys just because there's not a lot of depth in some areas. Safety, and nickel's one of them. Does that open the door for somebody like Sharif Denson to come in as an early enrollee and make his mark? I mean, he played all over the secondary at Barton Trail in high school. He was lining up at nickel, corner, safety. Teams try to throw away from him. He could be all over the place so he could get in more on the action. Not a lot of proven depth at safety or nickel, so opportunity is there for a true freshman to come in and make an impact, especially one like Denson with his versatility, his physicality. And if he lives up to his reputation in high school, is not afraid to tackle, is not afraid to hit, I think that could be something the staff will look at and point to that could get him on the field earlier. He'll be competing with Dakota Mitchell at that spot, giving Florida some competition at that nickel spot. But there's not much experience to point to. You got Jadarius Perkins there, and it's wide open, much like edge rusher, as we talked about. Antoine Powell-Ryland, and then you got now Scooby Williams holding in there, Jack Pyburn. I mean, nickel's kind of the same way. You got somebody you probably peg as a starter, but behind them, it is open season for competition. So, I mean, that's what spring's for, right? Hopefully we can get to a point where we feel better about knowing what's ahead, but I expect that to go all the way into fall, all the way up to that first game. So with the new defensive coordinator and now the new responsibility for Corey Raymond taking over that whole secondary room, how that affects all these competitions should be a fun watch. Really should be. All right, there we go. For another episode of Gators Breakdown, everybody, thank you so much for hopping in here. I know, kind of spur of the moment episode. But this is how we do spring practice around here. And of course, the coaching change kind of sped this one up a bit. Wanted to get it out there with Russ Callaway being named the tight end coach. But I believe on Tuesday, if I remember, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head right here as we record, I do think it is Rob Sell is going to be the coach that speaks, and then we'll find out who the players are at that same press conference. They don't give us the players ahead of time of who's going to be speaking when they send out the media alert for the press conferences. So be on the lookout for some offensive line talk. We just had a little bit right here in this episode with Austin Barber, but even more so from the coaching staff. And I believe, as I said, Rob Sell. So we'll see when the wide receiver coach announcement is made. I guess I'd call for another episode. If it's tonight, I see Muddy Waters saying the hire may happen tonight. We'll see if it gets leaked out, if it's announced. Florida hits the field for the second time this spring on Tuesday. I would think you'd like to, Billy Napier says he's not going to rush to hire. They've already missed one practice. Perhaps you'd like to have him for the second one coming up on Tuesday. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. And I'll catch you on the next episode.